Hi, this is Susie Iverson, otherwise known as Susie Q Scraps, and today we're going to be looking at how you can create text inside of a shape. I'm using Photoshop CS5 for this tutorial. The steps should work for earlier versions of Photoshop CS. For Photoshop Elements, you can do something similar in version 10 by creating text on a path or text in a shape. You cannot do that in earlier versions of Elements. I don't have Elements 10, so I don't know what the steps are for creating text in a shape. So please only use this video if you have versions of Photoshop CS. So I've created a new document that's 12 by 12, and I've pulled in a paper from the North Pole collection as well as this journaling shape, and that collection is available at scraporchard.com. Let me just zoom in so you can see closer. So what we want to do is journal inside this shape, but instead of dragging out a box that's going to be square and then starting to type and having it go over the edges of my circle, I could try and manually fix that, but instead of doing that, I'm just going to create a text shape that is a circle. So I'm going to hit cancel on that. So what you want to do is you want to hold down Control and then click on the thumbnail of the journal shape. So in my case, this is a circle. So I'm going to click on that. You'll see these marching ants following the outside of the shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and make this smaller because I don't want my writing to go all the way to the edge. I want it to stay on the white. So I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Contract, and I'm just going to go in 20 pixels and see how that looks. See, it's still on the edge, so we need to go further. So I just undid that step, and we'll try again. Select, Modify, Contract. Let's go with 40 this time. So now it's on the inside. So I like that. And then I'm going to click on this Paths tab. If you don't have it, you can go to Window, Paths. And then there's a little icon down here that will turn your selection into a path. So I'm going to click on that. And now you'll see it's made this work path, and that marching ant has become a line, a solid line. So I like to go back to my layers palette. In this point, you would grab your text tool. Now, if you wanted to type around the circle on the edge, you would click on the path itself, and your typing would put it on the path. But that's not what I'm wanting to do. So I want to click inside the space defined by that solid line, and then I can start typing. And as you can see, it's confining the text to the shape that we designed. Once I have my text in there, then I can play around with the size of it if I want it bigger, or I can make it smaller. I can add to it. So that's how to do it with a simple shape. Now let's look at creating text in a shape that isn't already defined for us, a shape that we're going to create ourselves. So I have this paper in this cluster again from the North Pole collection. And what I want to do is put some journaling up here and some journaling down here. But I want the edges to follow the shape of this circle. So if I were to just, let me zoom in here, create a box and put my typing in it. I'm just going to copy and paste that for simplicity's sake. You'll see that it's going to overlap this frame, which is not what I want. And I could come in and manually move the text so that it looks like it's following the shape. But that's a lot of work. And if I come in and change any of the text or delete parts of it out, that's all going to get messed up and I'm going to have to redo it. So rather than doing it manually in Photoshop, I can create my own shape using the pen tool and then turn it into a text shape to type in. So first thing I'm going to do is turn on my grid. So I'm going to go to View, Show Grid, or you can hit Control' on your keyboard. So all these lines are going to show up, and my grid is set up to have a grid line every inch with 4 subdivisions. If you want to change yours, you would go to Edit, Preferences, Guides, Grids, and Slices. Pull that down where you can see it. And here you would put in a grid line however often, whether it's in inches or in pixels, and then how many subdivisions. And then I like to have my snap turned on as well, View Snap. This just helps me in creating my shape. So then I'm going to grab my pen tool, which is over here. You can hit P on your keyboard. The way the pen tool works is as you click on different areas, it draws a straight line between those, and then when you want to close the path, you'll see this little circle hovering, next to the pen as you hover over the point that you want to close it at. Oops, I missed. And you click, and then it will close that shape. The other thing with the pen tool is if you click and drag, then you start to create curves. So I'm going to go ahead and just start over here. And I'm going to come right to here and draw a straight line. And then I'm going to just kind of draw a curve that sort of mimics, it doesn't have to be perfect, this shape here. And depending on where I want that curve, I could decide that's too far away and I could come to maybe this square. So you just kind of mimic, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I've got kind of this curve going that kind of matches, not perfectly. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw out the rest of my shape. And if I were to turn off my grid lines, you would be able to see better this shape that I've created. Now, it isn't perfect, and you could spend more time trying to get it more perfect. But for this video, and the sake of time, we'll just go with this. I would grab my text tool, and then I would click inside the box. And again, as I start typing, it's going to be typing inside that shape. But it's going to cut off where the edges of this are. So again, you may have to try a few times. You may say, okay, I really want that closer, so I need to redo that. Turn your grid back on. You've got your pen tool. I've undone all those steps. And we could try again. We could come maybe clear over here this time and try and follow, try and follow the curve a little bit more closely to match what we're looking for. And again, I'll turn off my grid so you can see that box. And now when we type in it, you're going to get closer to the circle because that's where we defined the edge of our shape. And you're not putting in any hard returns to try and make it the illusion that you're following that. So if you were to come in and change any of this text once you're finished, you won't have to go back and rechange all those hard returns. So again, let's come down here on this edge over here, turn my grid back on, grab my pen tool, which is over here, click P on the keyboard, and we'll start right about here, and we'll draw in, kind of mimic that curve. Doesn't have to be perfect again. But the reason I turn on the snap is so that between where I want a straight edge, it's perfectly straight and not slightly off because my eye is slightly off. Now, when you click inside this box, it's going to try and left justify to this curve. And what we really want is it to justify to this straight edge. I'm going to go ahead and paste in my text, and then I'm going to click on the right justify. And then it'll try and follow the edge here. And you may have to adjust the sizing of your text or where you put the words to make this match more closely. But that's a basic on how to create your own shape for a path that you want to follow to put your text in, so that you can follow the curve of these circles without having to manually put in hard returns and spacings to try and get it to look right. If you have any questions about this tutorial, you can email me, susieqscraps@gmail.com. Visit my website, susieqscraps.com. Thanks.